Hey, this is a video response to Runeslinga. Runeslinga. It's been a long time since I did a video response to you, man. So I went through. I felt like it. I just felt like it. I said, you know what? Let's beat an horse this morning. Let's find an horse, a good old horse, and beat the shit out of it. So that's what I do. That's what I'm doing. I'm beating an old horse, an old dog. So I went through your videos and I find one with a nice title. The title was Choosing Illusions. So this is a video response to you on choosing illusions. The thing though is that I don't have none to say about the topic per se, the way you talked about it. But I like the questions at the end where you say, what do you think about agency, and what do you have to say about agency and stuff like that. I have not much to say about agency, but I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So I want to talk about different kind of agency, not the agency, like the concept of agency, but the kinds of agency. Because to the point where I'm at now in my gaming experience and the way I see things and in my understanding of the hobby, I start to compartmentalize things a little bit differently now. I categorize stuff differently a little bit. And agency is something that I used to discuss on a really general level, like on a level of a conceptual level. Now I want to talk more on the pragmatic level. And Van Throden recently posted a video about the different kinds of GM-player relationships. So it kinda goes in that direction as well. So for me right now, to the point where I'm at, to where I'm standing, I don't see agency as the mecca like I used to. I used to say that agency was one of the most important thing, was one of the reason why I used to play and everything, and when I play and stuff like that. And now I think that agency is part of the hobby, and by changing the type of agency you have, it's gonna change the experience you have. So it's good to know one's preferences toward agency, and what you want to do with it, how do you see it, and how it's gonna complement your roleplay. And this is not easy. I'm not gonna go Van Throden on it. I'm not gonna start naming them and give them names. I'm just gonna discuss on a psychological level, on the way I feel about it, the way I experienced it. So, for example, you're gonna have that your agency of, like you discussed a little bit in your video, Anthony. You talked about the choices. I don't think that choices is a good way to discuss agency. I think it's gonna fail. It's meant to fail if you approached it that with the choice alternative. Because when you start choosing and giving the player different kind of choices and stuff like that, what you end up doing is basically it's basically say you have X or you have Y, and I'm gonna and therefore I don't have agency anymore. I become stuck between X and Y, and that's not agency. It's not for me, at least. So how I wanna approach this is like, Okay, so you have your decision-making kind of agency. This is probably most of the time based on GM driven game, relationship with the player. So you have a GM there that's giving you a situation, and then you have XYZ you can do with it, kind of thing. And that, like I said in my recent video on D&D, that's as its place. It has its place because sometimes you want to play such a game. Sometimes you want to go through a module. Let's say you've heard about a classic module like Keeps on the Borderland. That's like a classic. I don't even know what the story is, but everybody talks about it. It's like a classic. So you want to go through that. But you're not gonna go through that GM-less with a full collaborative type of play. You know what I'm saying? Like you need someone to play the movie for you. It's like going into a movie and you can interact with it, but even no matter what you do, you're still gonna come back to it. That's the thing you talk about. So when you play a module, this is what you're gonna get. So knowing that, the agency, the type of agency changes. And once you know what agency you're gonna get, just embrace it and have fun with it. So the thing is that's how I see it now. Back in the days, like a couple months ago or a couple years ago, I would say like that's bullshit and I don't like modules. I would say something like that, but that's not the way I see it now. The way I see it now is like, okay, you are playing module, all right. So you have a good GM you trust. You have people to play with you trust. Perfect. Sit back, relax, and just enjoy the show. And just participate in it. And that's super cool. That's super fun. That's super like I said in my D&D video. That's one type of agency. So that's basically just don't go out of your decisions that the GM is throwing at you. Understand what he's throwing at you. Take it. And do whatever you want with it, but don't break it, because if you like there's a guy named Damon Saxon something, Damon something, and he talks about that. Create, don't destruct, but create, kind of thing. So that's one type of agency. So that's an illusion. Yeah, if you want to call it an illusion, I mean, I don't care. But for me, it's just you're playing a goddamn module. You want to know that story. You want to be part of that story, that classic Keep on the Borderland kind of thing. Just do it. Just do it. Just play the part. Now, you have some other kind of game where there's no GM. So I'm going on the other hand of the spectrum, and now all you have is just a bunch of players telling a story together. Now, that can be called an STG, that can be an RPG play that way. Doesn't really matter now, but what it has to be, what I want to say about agency on that level is that in a game like that, that's all you have. That's pure 100% blood agency. You don't have a choice. The only choice you have is to create something. If you don't create something, it's not happening. So you see, that's one end of the spectrum, that's the other end of the spectrum. Now, you get all kind of stuff in between. Now, if you have a GM style that doesn't offer choices, like maybe Runeslinger likes to say, what's your style? You talk about, I'm responsive GM kind of thing. So now you don't do the Quantum Ogre, you don't make illusion of choices. The player decide on themselves. So still they have to decide something, so you can react. It's reactive, I think you said. So that's another way. That's another kind of agency. Now you're playing, and now you have way more agency, but you still have to make a decision. You still have to choose something. You see that difference? At the far end of the spectrum, where it's GM-less, you don't decide anything. You create everything. It's not decision making, because what I want to say is that maybe we can split the pie in two. For the Manichaean out there, if you want to split the pie in two, well, you have agency that is decision based. With GM, that means you need a GM. obviously, because someone needs to know what's gonna happen, because it's decision based. So that type of agency. Now you want to hide it behind a fake agency. I think it's just lying to people. I like making it appear like you have a choice, or making it appear like it means, like, when you play a module, don't even try it. Like, it's almost insulting. Like, don't even try it. When you play like in a module, you know stuff you do doesn't matter like much. That's not the point. The point is to go along with everybody and fulfill the story. That's the point. That's the goal of the game. The goal of the game is not to it's not character development. It's not telling good stories. It's the module story. It's not your story, so it's not the point. So it's really, really interesting. What I start to realize is that depending on the goal, now I'm going Vincent Baker on this, but he has a really good point. I still believe in that shit. You need a purpose. You need a goal. What is the game's about? What are you guys trying to do? What's gonna be winning the game? I know people hate that word with RPG, but I believe in it. For me, winning a game on a module base is finishing the damn module. That's what you guys have to do. So GM has a role, has to go in that direction. Now make it happen. As the player, you have to make that happen. Don't break the whole thing. Don't kill the most important NPC at the beginning. Don't just go. Just do it. Just say yes all the time and just go with it. That's the thing, and that has this fun element to it, and that's the thing. On the other side, if you are all about world building and full agency, kumbaya around the fire, now you need your caffeine, you need to be in shape, you need to be ready, because you're gonna have to have ideas, you're gonna have to sweat it off all night. You cannot stop talking, you cannot stop thinking, you cannot stop being in the game, because once you're out, you lose the focus, and then nobody has ideas, and it's done, it's dead, it's not working. And everybody's like crying for a GM now because there's nothing going on. You see, so now everything between, I don't want to start categorizing everything between, but I think that you can separate it with the decision-based stuff, where your agency is gonna depend on the choices you make, the GM made, and the GM wants you to do, or you want the GM to do, or whatever. All all those distinctions. And on the other side is when there's no GM, and there's a lot of game like that out there. It's not and some are RPGs. It's not just STGs. And so, like, in this realm, I would say that agency, you can have like the full-on agency, but you can also have like that agency where it's design dependent, like Van Throden talk about. It's the game's gonna tell you what's gonna happen. So now the agency changes a little bit. It's a design-based agency kind of thing, and that's pretty cool too, because now the fun doesn't depend on people's decision or people's ideas or creativity. Now the fun depends on where the dice falls, like how they fall and the results of the dice and stuff like that. And so the agency is going to be on the level of deciding when to roll. Now, you see that's another type. That's different. So when you ask those questions about like, do you choose illusions, and do you create fake illusions of choices and stuff like that? I mean, I think for me, when you go in that direction, when you choose that, it's because you don't assume your agency in the game, even as a GM or as a player. you are there and you want to make it look like it's collaborative, you want to make it look like they have a choice but they don't, that's bullshit. Just don't go there. Just assume that it's going to be railroaded, or assume it's going to be a module, or assume, don't lie to yourself and to people. Just go with it, and then everybody's going to know what they are into. I think the problem I personally encountered in the past is thinking, assuming that I'm gonna be free and I'm gonna be able to use my agency as I may, and not being able to. That's the frustrating part. But once you know that you're going into a module, once you know that the GM has a story to tell, once you know that, and you assume it, and everybody understands it, everybody's on the same page concerning an agency, and they're not forcing it, they're not trying to go in a direction or whatever, you know. And that's, I think, for me, that was key. Once I started to assume my agency, either as a player or as a GM or whatever, I don't even think GM has agency that much, but you know, that's another topic. But yeah, so that makes the whole difference for me, at least. So now agency, I would say, different types of agency with different purposes, and you get to, as long as you understand the differences and you get to assume them, you find the fun in them. All right, thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.